what's happening between the EU and the US? We all know what happened between Trump and Zelensky, but if the EU is a vassal of the US, then why are they opposing the president of the United States? Is the EU trying to break free from US dominance? You were right when you told us that it is Russia that's winning the war. Trump doesn't want this war to continue. He excluded Europe from peace talks. But is the EU trying to shield Ukraine, or is it powerful enough to stand against the US? And what's the future of Ukraine? Right. So there is friction between the EU and the United States. I mean, the EU, I've always said this, and it still stands true, that the real power in Europe, there are two main major powers in Europe. In the east, you have Russia. In the west, you have the US. The real power in Western Europe is the US. It's not EU or the NATO or NATO. And the US physically militarily occupies a number of European nations, including the UK, including Germany, including Italy, and the US has nuclear weapons. There are more. There are more nations. I just gave you a few. The US has nuclear weapons installed in various EU nations. So the US is the real military force and economic power in Western Europe. Now, right now, what you're seeing is politics. Okay, all these EU leaders, they have a close affinity with the Democrats, the Democratic Party in the US, and they don't like Trump, and that's the cause of the friction. And Trump wants the EU nations to spend more money towards the upkeep of NATO, a significantly higher percentage of their GDP for towards NATO should be given by the EU nation, by the NATO nations, and so on. There are a number of sticking points in the relationship, and that's why these nations, these leaders, don't like Donald Trump, and they want to stick it to him essentially by supporting Zelensky in this matter. Um, it's not going to be easy for Trump to get these people in line, but at the end of the day, he's the US president, and he's got the full might of the US establishment behind him this time. He has certain things he needs to do at home also. Like, for example, he wanted to, his administration wanted to release the Epstein files, but they were given redacted documents and not the full set of evidence, right? The FBI is not cooperating. So there are still holdovers from the ancien regime, the old regime of Biden, the Democrats, who generally have been very deeply in power in the establishment. And right now, Trump has to do a cleanup job. So it's going to be difficult for people like Kash Patel, who is the director of the FBI, for people like Tulsi Gabbard, who is the overall boss of the intelligence agencies. They have been put in this position that you are the captain of the ship, but the entire significant portion of the crew is against them. So it's a period of transition. It's going to take time for them to truly take the reins of power. It's going to be a period of time. So even with the EU leaders, Trump and his Secretary of State and the overall foreign State Department is going to have to work on them. So yeah, that's what's happening between the EU and the US. Some analysts are claiming the US is withdrawing from Europe and becoming more insular and so on. I would not be so hasty in making that claim. No superpower, no empire gives up its leverage so easily. But things are afloat right now in the world. A lot is changing, especially from a technological perspective. The US has its hand on super weapons, super technologies that nobody knows about. It's all behind closed doors. I'm talking about AI, obviously. AI is super intelligence, right? I'm pretty sure they've achieved ASI, artificial super intelligence. So they don't need to, physically control so much of the planet right now. And so things are changing. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's the situation. So these EU leaders, they want this war to be prolonged. They want the war to continue so that they remain relevant. But it's going to destroy the economy of Europe in the long run. So all these leaders, are problematic. I mean, they don't really have the best interests of their people and their countries in mind. Otherwise, they would not have brought in so many illegal immigrants and allowed the economy to deteriorate so badly. And the UK would not have allowed all those Pakistani grooming gangs to violate their daughters and so on. These leaders don't really care about their people. The EU is a scam essentially. So that's the deal right now.